Episode 216 of the TV Dudes podcast, recorded January 2nd, 2019. Time loops.
Time loops. New from General Mills. Delicious.
General Mills.
It's the cereal that you can eat bowl after bowl and never feel hungry. Never feel full, rather.
Is this like Badger's Star Trek episode?
Yes.
Just keeps...
Yes.
Folks, we are talking about a bunch of time travel shows, which feels appropriate as this is the first episode of the year. We've jumped ahead in time
Yes, we have a time jump.
to a new year.
Yes.
The year 2019.
It is the far future.
This is the future of several movies I've seen.
Akira, Running Man, and Blade Runner.
And it's worse
I'm
than all
so
of them.
underdressed.
You know, I'll say this. Don't you feel like Running Man had that show that was like a guy trying to climb out of a pit of dogs to get money, and he falls and the dogs eat him? Don't you feel like that's the kind of show we could see in the Trump era? I feel like that show could exist right now.
I feel like that's probably on. Spike TV's not on the air anymore.
Yeah,
There's got to be. That's on somewhere, right?
It's probably on somewhere.
It would be Spike
There is that
TV
dog.
the other one.
There is that like Release the Hounds show.
Is there really?
Yeah,
What
Yep.
do they do?
They release the
chase
hounds.
people?
I've explained it.
That's it.
They just
They
release
released dogs. I
hounds.
think this is on Netflix.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so folks, this week we're going to be talking about The Travelers Season 3 over on Netflix, Timeless Season 2, and their finale, which I think wrapped up a while ago, right? Are we catching up on that?
No. The finale just happened.
Yeah, the finale just recently happened. Season 2 was last
It was a Sense8 style
they
wrap-up
really
double episode.
Doled out the season? Like, it must have been a long season then.
No, it was a short season, but they weren't going to do...
Give me something here, Randy.
They were
weren't gonna-
canceled.
They were canceled, and they did a movie to wrap it up, Sense8 style, as
Gotcha.
Les says.
And then we're going to talk about Bandersnatch. Not really a TV show, but
It's a Black
kind
Mirror
of.
episode.
It's a Black
technically.
Mirror episode that's an
Yeah.
extended, experimental, movie-esque.
If you go through it real fast, it's TV episode length.
true.
Right?
If you make all the right bad choices, you could wrap that shit up.
You should
in
go over the ledge.
minutes, yeah.
And then you'll keep it at like a Black Mirror dark episode length.
And if you make all the choices, it's like watching a season of TV.
Yeah.
It's like 4 hours of content.
They supposedly up to five
Yeah,
and a half.
apparently they've
Wow.
shot a little over 5.
Okay.
All right, guys. But before we get into all of that, we are the TV Dudes. I'm Grant.
I'm Randy.
I'm Les.
And you know what we want to say is if you guys like hearing this show, if you've been a long-time listener, but maybe not as much of a participant, there's a couple ways that you could help us out in this new year. You could go to iTunes and make a per episode. No. You go to iTunes and write a review. That's what they do on iTunes.
Yes.
Don't laugh, Randy.
Don't go to iTunes and make a per episode donation. I don't know how that would work.
Not editing this. And go and write a little review. Give us 5 stars. It boosts the visibility. I don't know if, at this point, we are what we are.
Yeah.
But sure, maybe we'll strike it big and suddenly Netflix will make a show about
It boosts our ego, and that's what we need.
That's really the only thing.
Go say nice things and give us 5 stars.
You can also help us out by going to patreon.com/tvdudes and make a per episode pledge,
Right.
which means not a pledge. Give us $1 every episode that we release.
So if you were to pledge $1 right now for the whole season, it's going to cost you about $52, depending on if we do we'll usually skip a week or so. Let's say $50. That's $50.
Okay.
For that $50, you get our dulcet tones every week talking about TV,
Right.
which everybody gets for free because we give people things out because we're nice. But you also get an additional 20, 30 minutes every week of content of us talking about, let's be honest, most of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but also other things.
Sometimes it's ridiculous. We'll play Wikipedia roulette.
Yep.
Or we will theorize on how a trilogy of movies like the Maze Runner series narrative unfolded without having seen a single movie.
Yeah. So that's 1,000 minutes of extra
I want
content.
to go find the Maze Runner episode now.
Oh, it's amazing. We had a lot of fun with
We
that.
just read the titles and said, here's what we think happens.
Yes, we created our own Maze Runner series based on the titles.
I I still haven't checked out any of those movies. I wonder if we were close.
I don't want to know. I think we were right on, dead on.
Yeah, let's just assume we were.
1,000 minutes of extra content for $50 a year. That's a bargain you won't get anywhere else.
All of those other episodes are still available on Patreon, so if you sign up now, you still
get
have
so
access
much.
to all of them. Might as well do it. Go ahead.
Go listen to the Maze Runner episode.
We're also proud members of the Electric Sweater Network.
Electric Sweater.
And if you guys want more TV podcasts in your life, we got a bunch of friends that also make TV podcasts. So we have FemTV with our buddy Melissa, and she's interviewing a bunch of women in the television industry. We have TV with Key and Clyde, or Pilot Watching rather, with Key and Clyde. They also do the This Is Us podcast. And you guys can check out their shows over there. There's a new one that... or a new season, I believe, coming out soon from Mr. Les. Wow.
Yes, for Good Die Young Season 2, Happy Town. I've got all the episodes recorded. I've got enough interviews to go ahead and start, and still working on a couple more.
Oh, my God.
Nice.
So, yeah, go check out electricsweater.com. You can also check out Les's at...
thegooddieyoungtv.com.
There you go. All right, folks, we are going to jump into the news. Not a whole lot of news, but a couple things that are interesting.
Yeah. So there's a trailer for Miracle Workers, which is
oh man, Steve Buscemi is God.
Steve Buscemi playing God and Daniel Radcliffe playing an angel, and God is like a CEO mismanaging a corporation.
If you haven't seen a painted style portrait of Steve Buscemi with like perfect platinum white, like Gandalf the white hair, it's amazing.
So this is the guy who did Man Seeking Woman, which was bizarre and funny and weird. And I never finished that one, but I liked what I saw. This one is God decides that he just wants to do away with Earth and humans and open up an Asian fusion restaurant, which leaves his angel and the rest of his angel running the Department of Answered Prayers with a pretty big task ahead of them.
Karen Sony's also in this. That's the dude from Deadpool and Other Space.
Okay.
Yes.
Like the cast is pretty impressive. I thought seeing Daniel Radcliffe
could be really
in this
fun
one as well. I watched the trailer. I was like, I'm kind of amused. It's got this, once again, like feel good. Like let's get God back into the real world, helping in people's lives, but also kind of this like. No. He checked out.
Here's my biggest issue. It's on TBS.
Right. But this is weird. I keep feeling like TBS is dipping their toes in shows that I'm like, you're getting closer. You're getting closer.
Yeah.
I like Search Party.
I didn't like Search Party.
Yeah, I didn't care for Search Party as much as you did, but I've seen other stuff on TBS that I know what you're talking about. Like, I feel like they're being more irreverent.
Yeah.
I feel like I keep confusing them with TV Land, and they're not. Like, they're... they've done some weirder shit.
Randy pretended he was really into Angie Tribeca for like 2 seasons.
I was. I bought Angie Tribeca season 1. I haven't seen all of it because I watched it. I watched like 2 or 3 episodes. I'm like, oh, this is hilarious. I'm gonna buy this. And then I watched like one more episode, and I was like, oh, it's the same joke. And yeah, that was a mistake.
This show is exhausting.
Yeah.
Is this only 30 minutes?
Well, I started out liking People of Earth, and I fell off that one.
Right,
and I started out I never liked the anthology one they did, but that anthology that was like in a cabin or whatever.
Room 104?
No, that's HBO.
Guest Book.
Guest Book. Seemed like they've got so many good people doing that
Guest
show.
Book was
so bad.
God, who did My Name is Earl? And that's the creator of that.
Yeah, it is, and it should.
No,
be good.
it just didn't work. The episodes I saw, I think I saw 2 or 3.
But anyway, we're gonna review it when it comes out.
Yeah, maybe.
So we'll see.
I don't know.
This one, Grant, is from my favorite site, Screen Rant. Bizarre New Beverly Hills 90210 project isn't actually reboot or revival. I don't know what that means.
Read the article. It's amazing.
So Les and I already checked this out.
Okay.
And basically what's going on is they have the cast coming back, but for some weird reason, they decided that they're going to do a mockumentary-style take on a glimpse of this world where everything is heightened even more, but they're going to keep it a drama. So I was like, okay, is it kind of like Modern Family, but much more just crazy drama? I'm not really sure what they're doing with this.
Well, this reminds me, there was a show called Ryan Hansen Solves Crimes on Television, which was Ryan Hansen from Veronica Mars, basically.
Okay.
And do you remember the Don't Trust the Bee? They had Vanderbeek playing himself.
Yeah.
Sort of a heightened. So the notion of the
They're not playing themselves. They're playing their characters from 90210.
Wait, what? No.
I think they're still playing their characters from 90210, but they're playing. It's like there's a mockumentary crew. Well, there's a crew filming them now, and all the drama that was going on in that show is more over the top.
No, it sounds like it is Jenny Garth, Jason Priestley, et cetera, playing themselves in a heightened state. And they're going around trying to get a fictional revival of the show made.
That's even more weird.
It's super weird.
Yeah.
But not unknown. Like I say, James Vanderbeek in Don't Trust the Bee playing
That's at least something like I understood it earlier when we were talking about it. I thought they were somehow tweaking, like they were doing a reboot of 90210 even more cracked out.
Yeah.
And that to me sounded like the most desperate, like you can't satirize yourself, you'll ruin your own show. Like whatever ability to go back and watch 90210 there is will be killed if you make fun of it yourselves, I think. But we'll see. This would still do that. This is still going to make fun of it in a weird way.
Yeah, well, they also compare this to Margot Martindale's role in BoJack Horseman, playing a heightened version of herself. Like, heightened version of celebrities can be funny.
Oh yeah, NPH and
yeah.
But given that most of those people don't have careers after 90210, are they good?
Ian Ziering is the lifeblood of the Sharknado franchise.
Well, that's Shannon Doherty, guys. I mean, come on.
It's Ian.
Oh, is it Ian?
I have no idea.
he's that one guy who would be like, no, I'm sorry, it's actually Ian.
I think it might be because I had a roommate that really hated named Ian. It really hated it.
That's funny.
There's one more story. I believe.
Yeah, there is. Do you guys know what the most popular Netflix show in Texas is?
Something about virgins.
It is Jane the Virgin.
I was right.
There's a map of the most popular Netflix shows in the entire U.S. Here's the weird thing: in the continental U.S., there's a bunch that show up. Orange is the New Black shows up a lot. Jane the Virgin, End of the Fucking World. But outside the continental U.S., there's one favorite, and that is Iron Fist. In Alaska and Hawaii, Iron Fist is the favorite.
Iron Fist. Also, they're keeping it alive, but they don't have much of a population.
Also, is that – I can't tell what state that is that's pointing to, but Iron Fist is maybe – it's not New York.
Dude, this is very curious. It looks like Dark was the most popular one in Minnesota. And that's a German show.
Yeah. Yeah, Making a Murderer is popular in the North Midwest.
The one state that liked Lost in Space.
Oregon.
Somebody liked The Defenders. No, who?
Oregon and all their potheads like Disenchantment. I think that's the only way you can make it through that show.
Yeah. Wait a minute. That's not Utah that loves Stranger Things, is it?
It is.
Oh my God, that's weird.
Utah and Nebraska
an odd state.
are Stranger Things, and Colorado.
I would have thought Utah would have been the Lost in Space state, like the
is
one.
That Arkansas loving them some Riverdale?
Yes, I believe that is Arkansas loving Riverdale. Yeah.
Why?
This is a weird thing. This isn't an official Netflix thing, is it?
No. There's the article that we found has a whole methodology of how the guy put it together.
That's crazy.
Because Netflix doesn't release anything like this.
Right.
Oh, and of course, Ozark is big in Missouri.
Yeah, that makes a certain amount of sense. And Washington D.C. is gridlocked with 16 different choices. There's some funny stuff in this.
Oh man,
this article comes from highspeedinternet.com. By the way, it's worth looking up.
How is Jane the Virgin our state?
And California?
So the order in which we're going to discuss these shows is going to be The Travelers Season 3 over on Netflix, Timeless Season 2 on, I don't know, ABC maybe? I guess which station?
NBC.
NBC, sure. And then Bandersnatch over on Netflix as well. But first, The Travelers is
just
on
Travelers.
its...
Just Travelers. There's no the.
It's just Travelers?
Just Travelers.
Just Facebook. Got it. Is on its third season. And I know that Les is a zealot for this show.
Yeah, I love this show. Though Randy and I talked a bit about season 3 as we were watching it, just messaging back and forth, and we're pretty much in agreement.
Yeah, I think I messaged you. I watched the first episode and I messaged you and I was like, I think they may have their mythology may have gotten so deep that I felt like when I was watching this, you know, you turn on Supernatural in season like 10 and you're like, what the fuck has happened to all these characters? I feel like in 3 seasons we had gotten there with Travelers already. I was like, I don't remember who the faction are and why the director is. Like, I don't know what the mission is at this point.
Can you guys remind us what the basic premise is here? Because it's a little 12 Monkeys-ish.
A little, basically 12 Monkeys-ish. So we are fucking up the future. Like, the future is
a disaster.
Like a dystopian living in reactor-heated domes that are collapsing as the reactors fail. Like, we're doomed.
Yeah, the ecological collapse. We've basically fucked up the future.
It's literally just waiting until the civilization goes extinct.
So this is nonfiction.
Nonfiction, right?
So they figured out that this basically is the turning point decade, and there's a time travel. Like, there's a super smart AI in the future and a time travel program where they can send a consciousness back to a body now. And it hijacks that body. So it's unethical. So what they do is basically find people who were about to die anyway and jump you into their body like 5 minutes early so that you can
prevent their death.
Yeah, if it's preventable. And they'll try to drop you in one so that like somebody goes, "Oh my God, I can't believe I was about to do that dumb thing that would have killed me."
Right.
Only now you're a traveler and you go about your weird missions. But the show already had a really fun premise whereby you can't know really what you're doing and whether it works.
Right.
Like, part of signing up for this is knowing you're going to do a bunch of missions that seem really arbitrary sometimes, and you just have to hope it worked. But if a new traveler arrives, you know it didn't.
Yeah.
Like, because so there's a couple of points where like, your team's here. Well, if they're still sending people, then this didn't work. Fuck.
Right. Yeah, and they're all cell structure based. So like, you don't know. You're not supposed to interact with the other travelers
because they don't want to screw up. Like, another team may have been sent to do another. Like, you can't exchange information. You've all been given exactly what you need to know to not make it worse.
So is the idea that there's one solid timeline rather than every time they send someone back, it's diverting new timelines?
Well,
that's the yeah.
It's part of what they get into is how the actual time travel works and if they can fix things.
So the show starts getting more complicated. People start asking questions like, "Are you sure you're ever fixing anything?" Like, is that like arguing like that? And across 3 seasons, it's very quickly got fucking ridiculously complicated.
The first season was fairly straightforward. They had to stop an asteroid from impacting the Earth.
But then they do that.
And they did that.
Was there an Aerosmith song to help them?
No, it was not that.
But basically, they're all just they have this moment of like, do we go about I guess we just live out our lives in the 21st century? Yay!
But then they're stuck on missions again.
But then somebody shows up and gives them a new mission, and they're like, well, fuck, and like, well, you know, they fixed the asteroid. A bunch of people lived that wouldn't have lived, and some of them now do another thing that destroys the Earth later. And
right.
They got to go stop that.
They got to fix that. And then the director, their AI gets sort of there's someone working against it. There's a human group that's like called the faction that is like, the director doesn't know what he's doing, and we're going to use time travel. We're going to fix things.
We're tired of putting our destiny in the hands of a computer. We keep having to send time travelers back, and it's clearly not working. So we're done with this shit. And so like, there starts to be this fight contingent back and forth there, and that gets crazy complicated.
And then there's 01, the first traveler, who is the head of the faction, I think.
Becomes it.
Yeah, and he kidnaps a lot of their loved ones because when they travel back, like the FBI agent played by Will McCormick has a wife who
Eric McCormick.
Eric McCormick.
Yeah, Will from Will and Grace.
Will and Grace. Yes, that's where I got that.
Yeah.
One of the women in his group has an abusive husband. One of them Marcy has a
brain injury.
He has a brain injury, and she had a social care worker. And once she doesn't have a brain injury, he becomes a tractor, and they start a relationship, which is completely unethical.
But like the director only has the information in any historical record. So like, this woman has a brain injury, and as an exercise, she and her social worker made a Facebook page,
right? And so
with information from before her injury. So what they have in the future is just the time capsule you buried. And so like, she shows up and is like, why the fuck would the director have sent me back into a body with like severe seizures? And somebody lands in a junkie and is like, what the hell is happening to me? And like, dude, you're going through withdrawals.
Yeah.
but it was secret. The director didn't know that, and
they use future tech to fix a lot of these issues. But they all have these loved ones, and then at the end of season 2, their loved ones all got kidnapped by the 01 guy
and straight up told
about the time travel thing. So they had to walk that back with some crazy
but the government still knows. So season 3, the government's involved, which is kind of a fun change. The first 4 or 5 episodes of season 3 are so outlandishly complex.
There's so much groundwork. They've got to establish the new FBI protocols. They've got to establish the modern day AI that's talking to them.
Yeah, like there's so much new happening that builds, but it's not like a cold reboot new where you could just come into season 3. Like it builds so much on makes it a really fun, rewarding show. Yeah. It also makes it very dense and somewhat tiring to keep up with.
Yeah, when I was watching this, the first 4 episodes in, I was like, oh my God, I've watched 2 seasons of this and I still don't know what the fuck is going on. Like it's all laying groundwork for this season. But when you get to the back half and they start like accelerating toward the finale again, I was like, oh right, I like this show.
Yeah, I think so. I think I watched the first 4. Ironically, we're going to talk about Timeless in just a moment. I came off of watching the Timeless finale and went straight into Travelers, and started watching that, and I made it 4 in and was like, this is too much.
Yeah.
And I paused for a little bit, came back to it, and I think it was when I got to episode 7, the Trevor episode, that I messaged you and was like, okay, this just turned into great TV again. Like, this is why I love this show. And then 7, 8, 9, and 10 were consistently fantastic. Yeah. Like paying off why you put up with this dense of a show. Like the fun things that you can only do when things are this outrageously crazy and you can start to play things against one another. Netflix has not announced a season 4 yet. I suspect that Randy is correct, and they will.
I think they will. I think they plan to probably do it.
They should not.
Because this felt like we were ramping toward an ending, and sort of a tragic ending.
I say this as an absolute super fan of this show and evangelizer of it to everybody who will listen. I think everybody should watch the 3 seasons of Travelers. And I really don't think Netflix should make a 4th season. The way it ends this season is so beautiful of a wrap. I get how they could continue forward, but they just shouldn't. It's gorgeous.
Do you think will you watch season 4 if they make it?
It'll feel like a bastard stepchild. It really will. Because I know. Probably not. I don't know.
Really interesting.
I don't know. It's so
they can't put
sweet.
a time travel show that you're not going to watch.
Sons of bitches, I'll watch it. They know it. Sometime in the future, it's going to exist forever. It's like just laying drugs out there. Like, yeah,
Well, what do you guys think about season 2 of Timeless then?
So I had gone off of Timeless a little bit, not because it was bad, because I was like, oh, it's just another network TV show. And so I think I watched up to episodes 1 and 2 of season 2, which were back in March. Mm-hmm. And then I heard it was canceled, and I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'll probably never watch the rest of this. Then they announced they were wrapping up the movie, and we didn't have a ton of stuff to watch for the rest of the new year. And I'm like, oh, we'll do a time travel themed episode. We'll do Travelers and catch up on Timeless. And it turns out, as I started watching Timeless again, that I loved this show, and I forgot how good it was. And I would much rather have a season 3 of Timeless than a season 4 of Travelers.
Same. I like Travelers more than I like Timeless. It hit my sweet spot a little better, but Timeless is amazing in the vein of Eureka or Warehouse 13, or it's a little more serious than that, but it's a lot more swashbuckling and fun.
Yeah.
Whereas Travelers is smart, this is going to kill you kind of shit.
They're both comparable to the kind of thing you'd find on the Sci-Fi Network, though.
Yeah.
Neither one of them
is super serious. Yeah. I'm not saying that Travelers is like a Westworld level show, but it's goofy is not something I would really apply to Travelers.
But in watching season 2, they really developed all the characters. Mm-hmm. They've got Rufus in particular, their pilot and scientist and guy who should not be out in the field but yet is. Got to be such a great character by the end of this.
Yeah, and he is wonderful from this. I mean, from the very first time that they step aboard the life raft, and he's like, "We're going back to what year?"
Yeah.
No, man, I'm going to stay in the ship.
Yeah.
Like, look at
Malcolm Barrett.
Yeah, Malcolm Barrett.
He was from
Better Off Ted.
Better Off Ted.
Oh, he is, and he's great. Everything I've ever seen him in, so much of the finale involves like the beautiful wrap ups of a lot of plot lines, and they what they get to do with his character. I messaged Randy during this as well of like, holy shit, I didn't realize how much I loved that actor and was glad to see him on screen again.
Yeah. Well, and they developed a couple other characters. Garcia Flynn, who started off as their bad guy.
He's great.
They did some really
what they
interesting
do
thing
with
bringing
him is so
in.
cool.
And his arc is really good and really tragic. Gia, who is Rufus's girlfriend and also like a brilliant scientist, her whole arc of like being abandoned for 2 years in the Old West.
Yeah, she spends like 2 or 3 years in a really bad spot in time, just gets abandoned there. Yeah, a lot of the betrayals, and it's great.
And not to mention Wyatt's wife coming back in the way that all plays out. Like, there's a lot of good drama in here. I loved Emma as a bad guy. Like when she basically just she's like, yeah, I'm tired of all this bullshit from this time traveling old man. I'm going to take over this organization. She's a perfectly practical bad guy.
Yeah, she works great as a swapped out. It doesn't falter. And their wrap up movie it's really a 2-part episode, but it's a Christmas episode as well, which just makes it. I don't know. That to me, that kind of summed up the tone of this show. Of like, of course, your finale could also be a holiday episode.
Yeah,
is it a series finale?
It's a series finale.
Yeah, that's a wrap on Timeless.
So the series finale, they jump back to the California Gold Rush, and then also the Korean War, and they wind up sort of having to. It's usually something like something goes wrong with the time machine, or some kind of thing where they have to get they can't just like pop in, do their thing, and pop out. There's always some kind of thing where they've got to get by on foot, and they do some interesting stuff with the guys in the past. One of the things I really liked about Timeless in their metafiction is that the world changes around them. So the time travelers remember, but they'll get back to time and they'll ask the people who were there, like, do you know who JFK is? Because if they've done their job incorrectly, JFK was no longer president and things have changed.
Right.
And so they have a bit where they wind up bringing young JFK to the future and try to keep him under wraps because there was an assassination attempt on him when he was a kid. And he gets out and goes to a party, and he's like basically he finds that he's in the future, and it was really interesting stuff. I liked all of that.
Yeah, they have a lot of fun. I mean, they're a time travel show that really knows it, and they have a blast with it sometimes.
Yeah, if I had to choose one or the other, I would take Timeless over Travelers. Like
if there's one to continue on, I mean, Timeless already got saved once. Saved twice. That's how we got a wrap up 2-part episode. Right. Was I think another fan freak out about wrap it up.
It's too bad though. I like Travelers, but I like Timeless better. I think ultimately.
Part of my confusion when I was like, oh wait, surely it's on its 3rd season, Timeless. Timeless started 2 weeks before Travelers began.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Travelers managed to put out 3 seasons in the course of 2 seasons.
Yeah, but it didn't spend half its time canceled.
Yeah, that's because Timeless was canceled and came back.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the last show that we're going to discuss is Bandersnatch, the new Black Mirror episode / mini movie / futuristic interactive choose your own adventure watch series. This is not the first time Netflix has tried to integrate
Puss in Boots.
Yeah, Puss in Boots was the first one where they tried to integrate kind of choose your own narrative style.
And I tried the Puss in Boots one. It was super buggy.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, this one didn't seem buggy. In fact,
no, this worked way better.
So, if I want to talk about,
if you weren't on a Chromecast or an Apple TV,
yeah, the basic premise of Bandersnatch is there's this guy Colin. He's this 19-year-old kid.
Not Colin, Stefan.
Stefan, his 19-year-old kid that's living with his dad, and obviously his mom had died when he was a kid
in 1984.
It's in 1984, and he's trying to program this game based on a massive choose your own adventure book. And
it's like if Philip K. Dick had written a Dune-style choose your own adventure book.
And
only Philip K. Dick exists in this universe too.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. And so he got this Ubisoft-esque sort of company to kind of pick up his game, and they're going to launch it if he's able to finish coding it. And he's just kind of running into all these problems because there's us, the viewer, able to make choices that can change the path of the narrative.
Yeah, he has this weird stranger than fiction feeling that we're narrating him.
Yeah, he starts to catch on to there's a bit where you tell him to like throw tea at something, and he looks at his hand. He looks at his hand. He starts shaking. And you're like, oh, he doesn't want to do what we're telling him to do.
Or when you make him bite his nails instead of scratching his ear, and you see him why.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it drags you, the viewer, into it, and you're like, oh,
Sure.
you're doing a thing where we're actually, and it sort of starts to tag at your empathy. You're like, oh, I'm ruining this poor guy's life, even though you know he's fictional. I thought that was a clever
I
thing.
didn't care about that.
I know.
You guys are both sociopaths.
This was Knights of the Old Republic, and I was going full dark side. As much like,
Is that a video game?
yeah.
Yes.
It's Star Wars where you
Okay.
can go dark side or light side. I don't know. I overall watching this, I'm like, I like the concept behind it.
Yeah.
And I think that works well with this being a Black Mirror episode, kind of one-off
'Cause
experiment.
It's always about technology and that kind of thing. Yeah.
But I think it allows them to have a good feel for if they want to try and integrate this kind of technology with other future programming and give some good metrics for all that. The narrative itself, it's okay.
it's a weaker Black Mirror episode.
Yeah, it is technically amazing. How they shot things that flow so seamlessly, working out the coding to have it preload both your choices so that you don't see the seam or hardly ever so that I
Right,
see even a
right.
glitch. It really flows incredibly well. And there are far more branches than I realized,
But
and
every
I
time-
really did enjoy it.
Every time you didn't? Or
No,
you did?
I didn't.
Oh. Well, every time you have a choice, it's like this awkward pause of the character staring there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I felt like the narrative kept getting a little bit.
Oh, it kept breaking me out of the.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I'm not invested in this character so much as I am in the mechanics now. And now I just kind of want to see what the different paths are
and
out
that's
of curiosity.
that's my main issue with it is that I couldn't really tell you what Bandersnatch is about as far as a story or a movie. I know 2 or 3 ideas it hinted at, but I didn't actually see any of those real movies. Like it hints at the whole dad conspiracy,
Right.
science experiment, childhood kind of thing, and
Everything's
it,
a choice, and we all
but
are
it
potentially
throws that
controlled
idea
by
out. But I
someone
don't
else.
watch a movie about that.
Yeah, we don't know. We actually
I just
don't
see
know what's
like
real.
a scene about each thing, and so it kind of feels like the first 10 issues of the comic book Planetary. I think Warren Ellis said straight up, like, I'm setting up first acts of sci-fi movies that I never have to stick the landing on. Like
Right.
we're just launching first acts out into space, like craziest fucking thing I can think of without worrying about how this wraps up, and that's kind of how I felt about it. Like it kept hinting at these paths, but I don't really watch a movie about any of them. I just kind of see a cutscene, and it kept pulling me out of it. There's also there was an article I saw today about that they shot like 5.5 hours of this, and there's a lot of these paths that God only knows like what random sequence of numbers you have to put in for her phone number at one point to get to some of these endings. Like some of this shit may never be seen. And maybe this is because I don't play video games at all. That's just annoying as shit to me. Like that means that I never feel like I watched Bandersnatch. I feel like I abandoned Bandersnatch.
Oh, that's
and
interesting.
It's like at some point I just have to decide to get up and walk out of the theater, and that's it is a weirdly gross feeling. to
Right,
me.
like
I can never see it all. That doesn't work. That may work in video games. It does not work for me in watching a show when I can never find all the episodes. Fuck you for making this. Like it was a gross feeling. It feels like I just have to give up at some point.
It is weird because the idea of merging video games with linear narrative, which we're used to for television, is are we getting the true artistic intent of the creator anymore? Because in video games, sure, you're not going to find all the Easter eggs, all the different challenges that they may have coded in there, but that's like a whole team wanting to enrich the gameplay experience. But there's always one clear narrative,
Like,
or
there's
for the most part.
Randy, you posted something fanfic on Facebook.
Yeah, the
other
Harry
day.
Potter thing,
The
yeah.
Harry Potter thing, and somebody commented on it like all their problems with fanfic in general. That it's the best case scenario for all your favorite characters,
Yeah.
and that frequently makes for like the boringest plot.
Yeah.
And like that's everybody's complaint about fanfic. And that's like Dune has a shitload of characters, and it has this one amazing plot that Frank Herbert came up with that threads through those, and that's why we remember Dune, not because he just listed out a bunch of characters. When I watch something like this, I wonder if there's a job that went undone here where somebody's supposed to select and tell me a story, and instead you laid out all the pieces to a story, only they didn't really even do that. I like the meta-ness of it being a thing about choice that isn't really about choice, because like these aren't free choices for me either. He thinks I'm being controlled by somebody. I'm being controlled by somebody telling me to control you and only giving me 2 choices at a time. So it's not free choice for me either.
But here's where I'm going to disagree with you. Because I was just thinking about this the other day. We've had the discussion before about like what's the last water cooler show that exists, and it's Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah.
Game of Thrones. I can't think of really any other show that is that one clear show that you have to watch and then discuss the next day each episode. But
Where
Netflix,
like bars are putting it on, and
Netflix has clearly become the new like water cooler event. Like I can't necessarily be a show because they don't do it's binge model now for most things.
Yeah.
But you can do whole seasons, and Stranger Things exists within that binge model, water cooler, I guess, model too, right?
Everybody's talking about Stranger Things for a week.
But with Bandersnatch, this isn't a show that exists in isolation that you watch just by yourself. For most people, I think most people talk to other people about the fact that they watched this and tried out paths, and then they talk to someone else who also tried out paths, and there's that shared experience of like, what did you choose? What did I choose? What are we getting collectively out of this?
Yeah.
And it becomes a discussion piece, and I think there's immense value to that outside of this existing on its own.
I agree with that. Also, I got a satisfactory story out of this, to be honest. But the story of a kid who slowly goes crazy, and then the repercussions of his life are that some other kid goes up to basically emulate him, and quite possibly it was almost a Lovecraftian. Insanity is going to keep is going to keep going through these people because this Bandersnatch idea is going to corrupt them.
I mean, this was Lovecraft Week. Speaking of which, with Bird Box too.
Yeah, I really liked that. So I felt like I got a narrative, and then the problem I had was it kept continuing. Like it kept being like, okay, well now he wakes up and now you want to do a different thing, and I'm like, I'm almost the opposite of you, Les. I don't need all 5 hours of content. Just give me a selected 2 hours, and I don't need to see the other parts of the tree.
I kept finding places where it would only loop me back to a certain point, but I wanted to make a different decision earlier than that.
You got to
and
restart
you just
got to
restart the whole fucking thing and rewatch huge chunks of it, and kind of half tune in when the black goes up at the bottom of the screen to make a choice that you get back to the choice you really want to change. And again, I don't know if this is that. I don't have any experience with video games in the last decade, but that was immensely frustrating to me to replay levels like that.
Yeah, because this did remind me of some of what I've liked about playing, say, Mass Effect and that kind of thing, where it's like all dialogue trees and choosing which direction you go, and like you said, Knights of the Republic, where we choose whether to be a good guy or a bad guy. And
I certainly tried rewinding and realizing I couldn't rewind.
Yeah, I can only go 10 seconds at a
points.
time. I did a lot of that,
but it would have been nice. And it's I get why they're doing that. It's smart of them to change the interface for how you can interact with this one. But it would have been nice if there was sort of a go back tree that you could see, like
when you get to the end ending or something.
So the way I used to enjoy I loved to choose your own adventure books when I was a kid, and the way I used to read them was with every finger threaded through another page to
fold this
go
one this way, fold this one,
and then go check
way.
forward on these things. And it was a little. Once the joke of like, oh hey, I don't have a free choice here either. I get it. It's meta upon meta upon meta. Like once the joke of that wore off, I was like, great. Now, kindly quit deciding how you assume I will enjoy using this choose your own adventure.
Yeah, I get that.
What I wanted was a screen that I could flip over to that was, even if it was grayed out, where I had to have legitimately let it play in order to unlock it. Right. Once I wanted to be able to just run Mario back to whatever fucking castle I wanted to watch and watch the whole thing. Like it, or honestly, it would have been really pleasing to me if you shot 5.5 hours of content to just unlock it all immediately and let me God mode thread my way through all of it. Like
here's the thing.
You don't get that.
Here's the thing.
It's just immensely frustrating then. Like they didn't get chocolate in my peanut butter by mixing video games into movies. They just got fish in my chocolate.
I just want to go to the last level of Pac-Man. Tough shit. You gotta beat all the other levels. You gotta earn that.
Here's the thing. I do think that we will see that. I think they will probably release here's all of Bandersnatch. They'll wait till the buzz dies down.
I don't
a few
think
months.
Charlie Booker will do that.
I think they will. I think that they'll be like.
I think Netflix would have to make him.
Yeah.
Why would they?
No,
because then they'll get the buzz again. They're like, oh, the entire Bandersnatch is up. You can watch all 5.5 hours now.
Based on all of that man's creative output, I feel like Charlie Booker's a guy, right? Is that a
yeah?
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like more than buzz about the show, he would be far more concerned with fucking with the audience and like all of us slightly unhappy.
Yeah.
Seems a lot more valuable to Charlie Brooker.
Yeah, but not to Netflix. And that's the question:
No.
is whether Netflix is like, no, do it. Also, this was directed by David Slade,
Right.
who always does gorgeous work.
I don't know.
I really dug it. I just didn't enjoy the gameplay of it. I wanted a movie
I really enjoyed this.
or an episode.
I don't know that I didn't love it. It's certainly a weaker episode of Black Mirror, but I'm glad I watched it. And I find
The
myself
most
going
interesting
back
parts
to
to me are the parts that tie to other Black Mirror. The decision trees from White Bear.
Yeah.
There's a Metalhead. There's
a reference to Metalhead,
Bandersnatch itself is referenced in the playtest.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a review in a magazine in the playtest episode.
I'm excited for the other possibilities that this opens up with what Netflix could do with other type of entertainment.
Right.
Like,
It's like a 3D movie to me. I really don't care if anybody does this anymore. It's
oh, really? I mean, I don't know. Do you guys remember the
the narrative version of a 3D movie.
what was the
The Dragon Slayer
episode
game.
of Rick and Morty where Morty plays this video game in the future where it's like he lives out someone else's entire life?
That was an early one. Yeah, it's where the assassin Krampopoulos Michael shows up. Too.
Right.
Yeah.
And just this idea of like you could take something as mundane as that. You speed through living someone else's life and
Yeah.
all the choices, and I find those kind of scenarios fascinating. And
White
Telltale
Christmas.
Games does those.
Yeah,
all
The guy
times.
sitting over the shoulder in White Christmas who gets in trouble for he's basically Cyrano de Bergerac.
Yeah.
For somebody, John Hamm's character.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's basically what he's doing for a guy in White Christmas, and
Right.
a crime happens, and he ends up fucked because he's in the guy's ear when it happens. Taking that a step further would be that game, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, this all ties into Brooker's fascination with technology.
Well, and it's the same tech in all Black Mirror episodes
Yeah.
in different eras.
Yeah.
Well, would you be interested in this being integrated into a beloved property of yours?
No, absolutely not.
If an Elmore Leonard kind of story would allow you to kind of shape the choices being made by one of those characters?
No,
or,
Randy, a truck pulls up to a stop sign, and the bottom of the screen comes up black.
Oh, my
and
God.
it says, turn left.
keep
No,
driving.
no, I do not. I mean,
This way you could ruin shows with fan service every
I'll
time.
I'll take Terrier season 2 however I get it. If you want to give me Bandersnatch Terrier season 2, I'll take it. But no, I like this because of its uniqueness and its weirdness, and it fits with what Black Mirror does. If this becomes a technology they start using for other things,
I don't think it's going to be ubiquitous. We're not going to like. Oh
I think
man,
it's an outrageous amount of effort to
I
do
wish I
this.
could have an episode of my beloved Breaking Bad without having to be a choose your own adventure. It's not going to be like that.
It's slowed up the next season of Black Mirror, so I hope everybody digs it.
Well, I think it's most likely to be applied to the kids' shows. Like we talked about how it was in Puss in Boots. Now they've perfected the technology. I think we'll probably see it a lot more in kids' shows because kids like to interact with things.
So what's 15 years from now, they'll be in adult shows then?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah. This I
Let a generation grow up doing that, and they'll
They will ruin TV forever.
I definitely see this being integrated into other things because I think it also is a fascinating metric for how different people in society want their narrative to kind of unfold. And some people might want to fuck with the character and have the harshest reality. Some people might want the fan service or or the best things happening for their characters that they're invested in. It really kind of
I
depends.
know where this leads. Should Jason Todd die?
We've already been there.
We've been down this road.
yeah.
I don't know. Let's take a break, and you guys decide whether or not we'll come back for listener questions. You guys chose listener questions.
They chose fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah, I want listener questions.
I just threw
Randy?
tea at Randy.
Yeah. Quit trying to kick us,
Smash
Randy.
Grant's computer.
Folks, we're going to take some listener questions, and if you go to facebook.com/tvdudes and like our page, Randy puts up a post once a week. You can also mark it as get notifications, so you always get that little red marker on the bell up at the top of your
It's your
Facebook.
choice. You can choose what you want to do.
You should choose that, though.
Yeah, you should
do
choose
that. We got some questions this week, and first one we're going to go with is from Alec Miracle, who says, dudes, what are your thoughts on BBC's Sherlock? I, for one, if you were to ask my opinion, and yes, we are, buddy, says, I think it's a pretty great show with an okay season 4. I love season 2, except for the Hounds of Baskerville episode, and season 3 was great too. Thanks, and stay toasty. Hold up. That's the wrong show, my friend.
But if he said thanks and TV Dude's out, we'd have to end the show.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You can't once those words are uttered.
It's like when Mr. Mixelplick says the name backwards.
Yeah.
It ends the whole
Sherlock's the most adapted property in history, I think.
Yeah.
So, like, the BBC Sherlock is the one that has Bandersnatch, Comedy Boom.
thing. It has Bird Box Bandersnatch.
Yes,
Yeah.
Bird Box Bandersnatch. That's the guy.
We all know who you're saying.
Yep.
Every time anybody said Bandersnatch to me in the last week, my brain has done like 5 minutes of like bendy hoop, clabber bomb. Like,
I really enjoyed the first couple seasons. I mean, I think there's something fascinating still, and I love the character actors, what they're doing. Cumberbatch and what's his name?
Martin Freeman.
Yeah, Martin Freeman.
I think they're my favorite duo. I like them much better than
They're
the
great.
Downey Jr. one.
yeah, they're much better than the Guy Ritchie movie, Jude Law.
Yeah, the
Actually-
Will Ferrell one.
I actually like the Guy Ritchie ones.
I enjoyed those movies, but I really like the BBC Sherlock.
I did too. Here's the
I
thing.
didn't like their Moriarty, but
I
I
like
love
the
their
Moriarty.
he was a little too just nuts to me. But
Here's the thing. I think I only watched 2 seasons. No, maybe I watched the third. When was The Wedding? Was that the third episode, third season?
I'm definitely behind on it.
Yeah, the last third season.
So I think I watched the third season, but I never watched the fourth one.
Yeah, I've not seen the 4th season.
I watched it. I enjoyed parts of it. I don't know. It's just it also feels a little bit tedious. Like Moriarty's no longer the foe. So
Is this Gaddis from Doctor Who? Is this Mark Gaddis? Or is this
no,
the
I think
so.
other guy from
It
Doctor
was
it's
the other guy.
Gaddis.
It was the other guy from Doctor Who. It's oh damn it.
Russell Davies?
Nope.
No.
because Mark
It's not Mark
Gaddis
Gaddis.
plays his brother.
Well, Mark Gaddis is one
As
of
well.
them, but it's not just Mark Gaddis. It's the other guy from Doctor Who's name I'm blanking on.
The huge turnover they just had.
Yeah. Oh, God damn it! I can't. It's a guy whose stuff I really like too.
Not Russell T Davies.
Not Russell T Davies. So here we go. I'm looking up Sherlock now.
It's okay.
It's Stephen Moffat.
Stephen Moffat.
Yeah.
Moffat. All right, well, let's just jump to the next question. Jonathan Upnagel says, Dear TV Dudes, any thoughts on the newest Netflix release of Watership Down? Do we have any thoughts on that?
Haven't watched it.
The bit I've seen, the animation looks strange to me, and I can't like not the intro is a different style of animation than the rest of the show, just like the original movie was. But I don't know, the animation of the rabbits just looked a little weird. But I haven't sat and watched it yet. I loved the original,
Yeah, haven't
and I
watched
loved the
it.
book.
He also asks, what about Kurt Russell in Christmas Chronicles?
That movie was terrible, and I loved it.
Yes, it was bad, and I adore it. I hope they make 3 more.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I
It
watched
needs to outnumber the Santa Claus at least.
Yeah, I watched it, and I was about a half hour in, and there's no Kurt Russell yet, and it's just kids at Christmas. I'm like,
It was weird.
I don't care about these kids. I just want to see Kurt Russell as Santa. And once that happened, I was
And
all
the
in.
E Street Band and all of it, it was just exceedingly weird.
When the E Street Band thing started, and they were doing a musical in the jail, I was like,
Sold.
okay, yeah, this is good.
And then he asks, any love for Runaways Season 2?
Stay tuned.
Yeah, I was going to say, to that, next week. That's when we're going to be talking about that.
Next week's a superhero episode, superhero TV.
Dennis McElwain says, with Future Man coming back with a second season, which historical figure would you like to do Cocaine Wine with? It's mostly cocaine.
I feel like, is Sherlock Holmes a historical character?
No, Conan Doyle would be.
Right, okay. Oh, Conan Doyle would probably be an interesting guy to do cocaine wine with.
Yeah.
JFK goes right. JFK's a guy to do cocaine wine with.
You can do Cocaine Wine with any historical figure.
Ricky Jay just died. I would do Cocaine Wine with Ricky Jay.
Is he a historical figure?
He knows a lot of stuff about historical figures.
Okay, fair. All right.
Genghis Khan.
Oh, yeah. He'd probably kill you, though.
He would probably kill me before we even got to the
So
cocaine.
there's
line.
probably a lot of really like eccentrically weird U.S. presidents that would be spectacularly crazy.
Yes.
Like I bet Woodrow Wilson would be a fucked up dude to go on a coke bender with.
And then, let's see. Kyle Volti says, hey, I just wanted to suggest you take a look at the Canada series Bad Blood on Netflix. The first season is a dramatization of a real-life mafia wars that gripped Montreal in the 90s. What are some of your favorite dramatized real-life inspired TV shows?
First of all, stop suggesting new shows to us.
I heard good things about this Bad Blood.
Yeah, that sounds great. Was it Manhunt and Manhunter? I think both of those,
yeah.
two different real-life things, but those were both great.
Hannibal. That was real life, right? That
Sure.
was
Yeah,
Sure.
it's real life. Mhm.
real life Jeffrey Dahmer or something.
I mean, I liked Masters of Sex when it started, and then I lost complete interest in it.
Right, and Boardwalk Empire I thought was kind of
Yeah.
fascinating, especially like the first couple seasons. And
Yeah. And the historical...
Deadwood, does that get credited as kind of historically
sort
accurate?
of.
Honestly,
is.
there's quite a few historical figures in Deadwood.
Right, that one I'll say yes by far. Deadwood.
I didn't watch all of the season, but Magic City was kind of a fun look at dramatization of an era of Miami Beach that I had never seen before.
And I hear good things about Manhattan, although I don't know how much of that was actually based on the Manhattan Project real stuff.
The love story one on ABC, Manhattan. Love Story?
Yeah. No, no, the bomb one.
What about the bomb?
Yeah, that
or
could be cool
was it
too.
Not the one that was a bomb.
Strange Angel? I didn't watch that.
Didn't watch that either.
How'd they not name it Strangel? I think we talked about that.
Yes.
Or Strangle. No, it's a different show.
Okay, next question is from Mr. Michael Moody, who says, Outlander make you horny?
I've never watched an episode of Outlander, but I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
One of the time periods, yes. But which one? No, I have no idea. I've never watched Outlander other than to know that it's a Scottish time travel show.
Yep. I have friends who are obsessed with
I feel like I ought to watch it now. It's a time travel show, but
It's true.
I think, Mike, you're making me uncomfortable. You're making me uncomfortable with this question. Daniel Uvaldo's got our last question, and he says, hey, dudes, what is the first streaming app you open when you get home?
I'm curious to hear what y'all's answers are on this.
Netflix.
Yeah?
I open up Netflix, and I binge Office when I haven't chosen anything else to watch yet.
it really depends on if I have something I'm needing to watch. If I'm just going to throw something on, 30 Rock moved to Hulu.
Right.
So I have an Apple TV.
Oh, so you couldn't do Bandersnatch at home.
No, I had a PS4 and a Roku. I could have used
Okay.
I used one of those. But the Apple TV has a cool little feature where it's like your TV, and it puts up the latest episodes of whatever you've watched from all the apps. So Hulu, CW, HBO Now, like all those different apps, all the shows are up there. It's almost like having a little TiVo. So
That's cheating.
it's so
That's
cool.
awesome.
So all the shows are up there. So like, oh well, do I want to watch Top Chef on the Bravo app? I just push
just
the Top
takes you
Chef
over
button,
to-
and it shows whatever the latest episode is. And
I didn't know it does
God, that's
that.
a better
Yeah.
interface than Hulu itself.
it's a better interface than anything else. It's great. Here's the only issue: they're still they finally got Amazon Prime, so all the Amazon shows go in there, but the DC Universe app doesn't.
Oh no!
And the
said one
and-
person,
and
you?
importantly,
Me.
Netflix doesn't.
Oh, wow.
Because I think they're fighting with Netflix.
I was to say that that
so-
sounds like Macs don't want to do PDFs kind
Yeah.
of or Flash.
Exactly.
Kind of issue.
So I still have to go. With the answer to this question is I don't go to a streaming app. I go to my Apple TV. But if I go to a streaming app, I go to Netflix because it's the only one I have to open and use.
because
their
you're blind
interface.
on it otherwise.
Yes, exactly.
There we go, folks. All right, so next week, a little bit of a preview. We're going to be discussing at least our thoughts on Runaway Season 2.
Yep.
But there might be some other Marvel shenanigans going on.
Marvel,
there.
DC. We're going to talk about all the superhero shows.
All of it.
All right, so folks, stay tuned for that.
The Cape. We're going to talk about everything.
Not the Cape.
I'm not going to be there, so have fun with that. Randy and Les, thank you guys for joining us this week.
Thank you, Grant.
And listeners, thank you for joining us, as always. And we will see you guys next week. But until then,
TV Dudes out!
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Electric Sweater Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener-supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/tvdudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is by our friend and original TV dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and electricsweater.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.